Hello everyone, welcome to Scorched Earth Toys at anymoon.com's review of Yamato's 160 Destroid Tomahawk. This is also known in Robotech as the Excalibur Mark IV and in Battletech as the Warhammer, before it became unseen and disappeared. These toys come with two little standing diorama figures. I shouldn't say standing, one of them standing. He's got wands, here you go. He's got a little platform he's standing on, makes him easy to hold up. There's also a kneeling figure. So no matter what flavor of Tomahawk you got, those are the figures that came with it. It was available in a total of 4 different flavors. You were able to purchase first this beige version. It came out in September 2008 for 9,800 yen. It was followed by a green, not weathered version. This is the weathered version. In December 2008, also 9,800 yen. In November 2009, a year later, we got these weathering versions. They cost 12,000 yen. Each toy comes with instructions that are pretty basic since these are not transformable vehicles. They also come with stickers. A large part of the instructions is how to apply those stickers. Depending on if you got the beige or the green version, you got different stickers. And the weathering versions come with water slide decals. And the toy also comes with a pilot figure. Standard Yamato, decent detail pilot figure. There is a canopy that opens up to reveal a seat inside that you can just place the figure in. Now, this is one of those kind of gratuitous details in that when you seal everything back up, obviously there's no evidence that there is a pilot in there. So, neat, but not entirely necessary. You also have opening missile bays with pretty nice missile detail. And you also have these missiles that open up. And again, pretty nice painted missile detail in there. As you can see, there's also gun turrets. And they have sort of the heat reliefs in them. So the cannons also have some interior detail. So overall, very nicely detailed. You can also see there's clear plastic bits. Let's lock that up a little better. Clear plastic bits, a little shiny metallic paint there. Clear plastic bit. Radiators on the side. Very nice detail work done on this toy. While Destroids certainly aren't known for being the most dynamic vehicles in the Macross universe, there is a fair amount of articulation here. Now you might be wondering, does it really make sense to have a giant cannon on a floating hinge? Probably not would be the answer to that, but you do have that much articulation with the cannon. Obviously the shoulder rotates. And you can bring the arm out like this, and there's a little flap on top to help conceal the joint within. And if you listen, it's actually a little clicky in there too, so that's all very nice. Now, there's a gimmick with the hips that you can actually pull the hips down. You heard that click there. And then that creates clearance between the toy's upper leg and the radiator right above it, and that then allows you to get much more dynamic leg movement going on. So here he is taking a giant stride. You also have, you can bring the leg back that far, and you have the ability to pivot the leg outward on a hinge at the knee, so you can get really wide A stance going. There is a knee. We'll discuss that later. There's a knee. And there is ball joints in the feet and ankles and a toe. So all of that, very good stuff. You can twist. Like I said, it's a ball joint, so you can get all sorts of movement. Now you may have noticed, you might not have, that half the toy has fallen off. And that is sort of the next attribute to discuss as far as the depth of the design work that went into this toy. You can remove significant portions of the toy. So you can take the arms off, you can pop that back piece off, you can even remove this piece here and get down to the common legs. And that was, so if you had other Destroids that Yamato was planning on releasing, you could then assemble Frankenstein Destroids. So, a neat little gimmick. Also, if you are a customizer, you can take your toy apart and customize the smaller bits and put everything together. And maybe what you would do is come up with something like the Weathering Destroid. Now, here is the Weathering Destroid. And in my opinion, it's a little dark. It looks like something exploded directly in front of it. Something very sooty. But, you know, as far as if there was any toy in the Macross universe that should look overly dark and sooty, I would say it's probably the Destroids. And the Tomahawk, it looks good on it. Now you can see the beige version with the black weathering. And then here is the green version, which again you saw in the intro briefly. And the green version has a beige weathering to it. And again, I could Tomahawk, or I could Frankenstein the Tomahawk toy with other Tomahawk toys to get one that's partially green, partially beige, however I want to do it. Now, one big complaint with these toys, and one I would echo, is that the center pivot is too loose. So just the slightest touch and it falls backwards. And the legs aren't the stiffest in the world, so that's a lot of weight in the back of the toy. And so when it falls backwards, if your legs are a little bit loose, you could lose the whole toy backwards to a fall. So that was something that definitely detracted a lot of people off the get-go. One thing also to point out while I've got this toy out, the green versions came with a metal antenna. The beige versions, that's plastic. Not sure that really matters to anybody, but just some trivia worth pointing out. So in my haste to show you the hip gimmick, I did kind of gloss over a couple points of articulation, and that is the swivel and that pivot that I complained about. And you can also pivot the legs outward a fair amount, and you have the ball joints and the feet, and you can also pivot them in and get the feet to touch, like so. Now you might be thinking, hey, I have a Matchbox Excalibur toy. Do I really need the Yamato toy? If you want a toy that scales perfectly with your 160 Valkyries, the Yamato toy does. It's 21 centimeters to the top of the missiles, 19 to the top of the head, and that is exactly what a 160 scale Tomahawk should be. The Matchbox toy, on the other hand, is actually 172 scale. So I guess it would go well with some models out there, but they make Tomahawk Excalibur models, so you'd be better off using those, because obviously they would look a little bit better than this Matchbox toy. So, also, obviously, the Yamato, much better in articulation and detail, so it'll fit in with modern toys, where this will fit in nicely with very classic vintage toys, and that's about it. Okay, so it's nicely detailed, but how does it stack up against the line art? Pretty darn well. It is really hard to find a weakness, and just about the only one I could find are that the cannon arms are just a little bit oversized when I compare it to line art. Everything else is pretty much spot on. It's a remarkably well done representation of the line art. I mentioned earlier that you could Frankenstein these toys, and here is what I meant. I'm going to just go ahead and pop off the arm on my Tomahawk. This is Yamato's other Destroid toy that they released, the Defender. They had teased a Phalanx, but never actually got around to releasing it. So here I could take a Defender arm and put it on my Tomahawk, and there I've got something which kind of reminded me of the Zentradi Malcontent Uprisings arc from Robotech or Palladium. So that's a neat little gimmick. Since Yamato did not release the Phalanx or the Gladiator, the other Destroids out there, that is actually one little positive about the old Matchbox toy, is that it has a full family to play with. But obviously it does not play nicely with the Yamato V2 VF1. And while this toy was a very easy sale to Destroid fans, being priced at the same MSRP as the VF1 V2 toys, definitely led more people to be buying VF1 toys than these Destroid toys, which certainly didn't help it out. And while it's a very good toy, things like its propensity to falling backwards and maybe disassembling it when you don't necessarily want it to, there it falls forward because the toes aren't really stiff enough. It's not perfect, and at this price point, you kind of want it to be. So, really, really good. Destroid fans definitely hop on it. These days they're selling for even more than they originally did, but the VF1s are even higher than that, so maybe they're appealing to someone. I love them. I'm happy to have them, but I can't say that they're the best bang for the buck. Visit anymoon.com for my full review, and thanks for watching.